Trinidad, because today the All Trinidad Rural Workers Trade Union is announcing the opening of its land management unit, headed by Mr. Stephen Ramkissoon, a unit which is designed and orchestrated to assist ex-Caroni workers, squatters, and those individuals who may be living on tenanted Caroni lands with any difficulties they may be encountering. As you are aware, there are people who have received leases and do not know where the lands are located. There are people who have received leases and cannot access the lands. There are people who are engaged in attempting to transfer the lands and are being taken for a runaround. More so, we have reports where exorbitant fees are being charged by particular attorneys with regard to the transfer of lands that belong to the Commission of State Lands. So we have a situation where there are many ex-Caroni workers, squatters, tenants who are facing difficulties, and today the All Trinidad has decided to set up this unit to assist them in any way possible. I won't be too long. I would want to introduce Mr. Stephen Ramkissoon, who will be the coordinator of the unit, to say a few words to the media on this issue. Stephen.
I would first talk a little about the history of Caroni. Caroni 1975 Limited was the largest landholder after the state, owning approximately 77,357 acres of land. These lands were divided into 16 cultivation sections. Now, Caroni was closed down in 2003, and apart from the visa package, 2-acre plots and residential lots were allocated to its employees. But prior to that, Caroni had on its record approximately 4,900 registered agricultural tenants and approximately 4,300 residential tenants. Since the closure of Caroni in 2003, several ex-employees of Caroni continue to visit the All Trinidad Sugar and General Workers Trade Union with complaints, concerns, and issues arising out of the VSEP allocation. Some of the major issues raised is that a large percentage of ex-employees up to this present time never received their lease. A large percentage is not familiar with the allocation, where the lands are allocated. A certain percentage was requested relocation, and the reason for asking for relocation is that there was a lottery system designed at the time where you pull a number, and based on the number you get, that plot would be allocated to you. So you have people as far as Moruga getting lands up in Chabonas, and you have people like in Orange Grove getting lands in Baby. So you find because of that now, a large percentage of ex-employees are now requesting relocation. They have been complaining to the union about these issues, and there seems to be getting a runaround. Hence the reason why the union took a decision that a land management unit should be established to address all these issues and concerns. Apart from the VSEP 2-acre and residential lot and tenants, we have a large area that is squatted upon by residential squatters and agricultural squatters. It's estimated that we have approximately 3,500 residential squatters on Caroni land. Now, during Caroni tenure, we had started an exercise where these squatters can be regularized. But since the closure of Caroni, that exercise stopped. So you find people without tenureship, and as a result, they're unable to get or access government grants in repairing the house or renovating or even transferring to the spouses or other beneficiaries. Now, apart from all of that, it was brought to our attention, and we're fully aware that certain lands are being given out to certain contractors and individuals, large acreages, while sugar workers only get a 2-acre plot and a residential lot. 5-acre plots, 10-acre plots, and as much as 50-acre plots were given to the general public. And these said lands have all the necessary infrastructure in place, while Caroni workers are still awaiting proper infrastructure for their agricultural plots. I just want to talk a little about the Caroni Green Initiative. We have farmers who were given leases on this land, prime land. Government spent quite a lot of money on the infrastructure development for these lands. Yet still Caroni workers still await proper infrastructure development to access their 2-acre plots. Now, we would like to know what sort of money was injected into that project and what are the benefits. Was it beneficial to the state or even the farmers? So, we have an issue. I would like to challenge maybe any one of you all to visit that project, and you will observe that the entire project seems to be a failure to date. And if you go there presently, you might find that about 75% of the area is abandoned. Now that Caroni Green Initiative encroached on VSEP recipients on their 2-acre plots. And we have several requests from these ex-employees that they don't know why the land were taken and who is responsible for it, or whether they would be relocated. Several visits to the relevant agency prove futile at this point in time. So they are asking us to also look into that relocation process. Now, during Caroni tenure, we had an efficient lands department where we used to manage all of Caroni land holdings and service all the tenants efficiently. Today you have several agencies trying to manage Caroni land to no avail. We have the Land Settlement Agency, we have State Land, we have Caroni, we have the EMB. But no one has a proper mandate when it comes to managing Caroni lands. So you find that we having prime arable land being used for residential and commercial activities, and where certain lands are distributed without no proper criteria in that distribution. So we are fully aware that a proper land management unit is necessary at this point in time to also develop what you call a land policy for Caroni lands. The union, however, with much deliberation, decided to establish the land management unit. And this unit would benefit all VSEP recipients on all land-related matters. The unit would also assist all registered tenants of former Caroni Limited with respect to their tenancies. The unit would also assist all squatters on Caroni land in obtaining comfort rights and tenureship. The land unit would develop a land policy and recommend to the state on best land management practices. During Caroni tenure, a study was undertaken with all of Caroni lands, and that is during the early 90s when sugar was on the decline and Caroni wanted to maximize the full potential of its land. So a study was undertaken with respect to all land holdings, and recommendations were made. Now, we have data that is readily available, and the data consists of what is the best use for a particular plot of land. For instance, agriculture, based on certain attributes like soil type, soil series, it is recommended what might be the best suitable crop to grow on those lands. Now, the function of the unit would be to assist all VSEP recipients with respect to transfers of leases, to help in identifying the respective boundaries, to help in approval from state agencies, We will also be providing legal advice on all land-related matters. For instance, letters of administration, wills and probate, deed of assent, and statutory declarations. Registered tenants would also be assisted with transfer of their respective tenancies, approvals, their rents, surveys, that's cadastral surveys, sales, letters of administration and statutory declaration, and also free advice, free legal advice with respect to their respective tenancies. The squatters who now occupy Caroni land, we would try to assist in getting comfort rights for these squatters and tenureship so that they can now access government grants where they can repair the necessary their buildings, their houses, and agriculture squatters will also access grant as well from the state. Now, a decision was taken by the state some time ago that the Caroni leases can now be transferred. Now, because of that, we recognize that a lot of people, companies or agencies are capitalizing on this. We, however, are asking ex-employees of Caroni, do not sell your land. We know there are some instances where people are forced to sell the land because of the financial constraint. If, however, a decision is taken that you want to sell your land, we would like to help in that regard. We would like to maybe attract the highest bidder for the land. So at the end of the day, you don't get small money for your land, but you get the market value or even higher than the market value. So we once again is asking people who want to sell, come to us first of all and let us give you proper advice when it comes to selling the land. And go sell it for small money on the outside, because there's a lot of people going around seeking to purchase this land at small prices. And it's unfair to sugar workers, former sugar workers. That was the last benefit that you have, and we wouldn't like to see you give it up for next to nothing. Okay, I thank you, and may God bless you all.
If there are any questions, we will take it at this point in time.
Could you say if there will be any cost for this service, this new unit that has been set up? Is there any cost to the former workers to access this service?
Well, it's based on the service that we'll be providing. For instance, our legal advice when it comes to the leases is free of charge. However, if you want to do a lease transfer, we will be looking at a small fee. If you want to sell your lease rights, we can prepare what you call a sale agreement, a statutory declaration, and an application to transfer. So we are looking at minimal cost for these services that we're going to provide. Only in that case, to transfer and to sell. Most of the other services that we'll be providing would be free of charge.
Where would this unit be based?
The unit will be based at the union's head office right here at the Renzi complex.
Now, I want to turn the attention of Mr. Maraj. Mr. Maraj, you are the union is forming this new unit to assist Ex-Caroni workers. Coming out of your last press conference, where you would have hinted that information has reached the union that the government were going to take back all the lands that was allotted for the Ex-Caroni workers. You were being bashed, and is currently being bashed on the newspaper by several persons with regards to that statement that you would have made. How do you respond to some of these critics?
Well, as I said before, I was actually quite amused at the response of the government ministers. In fact, I don't think any of the ministers took the time to listen carefully to what I said. In that press conference, I said that we are hearing that ex-Caroni workers will be written to 2,700 of them, and the lands will be taken back, and they will have to be relocated. And this was going to take place in places such as Hermitage and Cedar Hill and Picton, Ocala, Waterloo, Exchange, to name a few. And what I said, if this was true, then it would be a travesty of colossal proportions. I said, if what we are hearing is true, we pray to God that it does not happen. And it seems I may have touched a hornet's nest or raised a Jack Spaniard's nest. I must have touched a nerve somewhere, because the response of the ministers, I think, was extremely disappointing. Not in nursing, for example, came out, and when I listened to him, which I did, I think poor fella, he missed the point totally, once again. I listened to Vasan Baharat, and as Minister of Communication, he was quite eloquent and well spoken as normal, but I think he should have clarified what I said before responding. And of course, Devant Maharaj his comments do not deserve a response. The only thing I would say is I think the Prime Minister should send him for some training in proper protocol and etiquette and decorum. And if what the ministers are saying is true, then if one ex-Caroni worker receives a letter indicating to them that they have to be dislocated, then these 4 government ministers must resign immediately as having lied to the public. The only thing I could say is that perhaps, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. I take the minister's words for it at this point in time.
Mr. Maharaj, there will definitely be some cost to the union in establishing this unit, and the election is around the corner. Should the government fulfill their promise to the Caroni workers, what will be the position with you and your union at this unit? And more so, by extension, the party that is to be launched coming out of the...
Well, I believe one thing, and that is, of course, that the only constant in life is change, and nothing is ever cast in stone. We have been fighting a battle to ensure that the government does what it has to do for its supporters and those who would have been the foundation of this party and the foundation of the government. If the government should do what it has to do, and by that I mean ensure that the working class in their support base is not betrayed as I perceive they are doing now, then we are willing to speak with anyone and work with anyone coming up to the next elections.
Mr. Maharaj, early in 2004 there was a full-page ad in the press stating that ex-Caroni workers could transfer their agriculture and their residential lots. But at the time, phone numbers listed, the people answering the phone knew nothing of that. Has that changed? Has the transfers begun?
I have had no official correspondence from the government on that. What I can say is that there are people, from what we are hearing, who have been attempting to transfer their lands. We are also hearing that lands are being bought up at a very rapid pace. In fact, I made certain statements with regard to people getting calls from the offices of certain government MPs, people getting calls from Caroni Limited, concerning their lands and selling their lands at a minimum cost. And I've said to ex-Caroni workers over and over again, if you are being offered a minimum cost fee for your lands and you have no choice, take it. If you have no choice, you have to take it. But remember that you are being cheated by the very people who are supposed to be taking care of you. One question I will ask, though, is that I've heard that the individuals of Caroni 1975 Limited who are supposed to be taking ex-Caroni workers to show them where their lands are located and to show them their boundaries have stopped doing that. And I'm asking whether, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it seems as though these individuals, instead of doing what they are supposed to do, are quickly becoming real estate agents. And this is something I think the government needs to look at. They also need to ensure that the confidential information of ex-Caroni workers are not being given out by individuals in Caroni 1975 Limited, because there are people who are getting a lease today, and by the next morning they are being called and they are being offered certain prices for their leases. These are things that we will be seeking to deal with this unit.
But those are transfers in terms of money. I mean, has there been any transfers from mother to daughter or father to son?
I can't say at this point in time. Can you?
Yes.
So the system is working. There is transfers taking place.
Yes.
What we do know is that we have been approached, well, I say many ex-Caroni workers have been approached by a number of real estate agents in an attempt to get their hands on the lands.
Every time you seem to have a press conference, the number of leases suddenly seem to appear and be distributed, whether it be in Vancouver South or in Rienzi Complex. And this has been going on for, I'd say, at least 2011. Is your attempt to have a press conference every few weeks and hopefully have the matter resolved, all the leases be given out?
Well, my information is that the government is intent on, when it comes to the agricultural leases, they are intent on giving out every single lease before the next general elections. The only problem with that is many of these leases have become worthless pieces of paper because the people are unable to access the lands, they don't know where their boundaries are, there are no infrastructural development on the lands, and as such, the leases are given out, and then again, as I said before, they are approached to sell the lands. So I don't know whether there is indeed a conspiracy to ensure that these lands are not developed in a particular way, and to ensure that people cannot access the lands. One minister, as you know, keep claiming you could go onto the computer and find where your lands are located. But I'm wondering if people could step into the computer and get on their lands. I think he fails to understand that people need to be shown their lands physically and to be shown their boundaries physically.
The government's intent on giving out that's the 2-acre agricultural lot. What about, there's a residential one lot also due to the Caroni workers? Are they intent on giving out those before elections?
I am not sure. My latest information is that there are 5,800 ex-Caroni workers still to receive their residential lots and leases. I know that 1,500 people are still to be allocated an initial plot of land from the visa, and I know that there are about 1,200 persons who have been allocated, dislocated, and still to be reallocated. So I really don't know what is going on. But as I said before, if the government does what it has to do, we are willing to help, we are willing to assist, and we are willing to walk hand in hand with anybody to ensure that the ex-Caroni workers get what is due to them. Not a gift or a handout, but their legal entitlement by law.
Mr. Marais, we see government have embarked on a land for the landless program. People who are squatting and so on, they continue to benefit from grants from the government where they have been allocated lands and this kind of thing. Even persons squatting on Caroni land have been regularized by the government and given land in other areas. Have it ever been by your union or members approach and inquired why it is that the workers of Caroni have been treated in this way, and what your members intended to do?
Well,
as it is right now, it seems as though you are carrying the mantle alone.
We have consistently articulated the point of view that the Yeltsin judgment of 2007 makes it a legal entitlement and an order of the court for the ex-Caroni workers to be dealt with before anybody else in this country. And it is a travesty, and I agree with you, it is a travesty that you have people being given lands, land for the landless, you have squatter regularization, you have the HDC programs, whatever it may be, and ex-Caroni workers are still waiting 11 years, and since 2007 on the judgment, to get what is due to them. We have articulated it, I don't know why, but my intention is to ensure that the ex-Caroni workers are no longer treated with disdain and contempt. My intention is to ensure that they are considered first-class citizens of this country and that they receive their just due. And I will repeat, it is not a gift, it is not a handout, it's a legal entitlement by the law. I can't answer your question as to why. Maybe it could just be that the government, they are taking the ex-Caroni workers for granted, thinking that come what may, no matter what happens, their votes are always assured. But only time will tell.
Now, one other concern that was raised with us It's a major issue. It's estimated at this point in time, approximately 2% of former sugar workers passed away. And the beneficiary is not sure as to what would happen to the land. And they have been going around in circles, and they are not getting any proper response from any of the agencies. We, however, would like to meet with the relevant agencies and develop a plan where the beneficiary of the former employees can access the visa loan and agricultural land.
If I may, before we close, just one quick comment. We have seen signs being put up, and we are hoping that the sites that I mentioned in the first press conference before this one, that those sites will not be taken away from the ex-Caroni workers and be used for the landless. At the end of the day, though we don't have a difficulty with the land for the landless or any other program of the government, what we are simply saying is that those lands that have been allocated to ex-Caroni workers should remain with the ex-Caroni workers, and those lands that have been allocated to the ex-Caroni workers should not be taken away to be used for any other reasons. In addition to that, we have heard rumors that new surveys are being done, and I'm saying it's just a rumor at this point in time, so the government ministers do not have to come out as they did before. It's an allegation that we have heard that surveys are being done over, and lands are being reduced from 5,000 square feet, is it, to 4,500. That again, that's simply a rumor, so I don't know, maybe the government will clarify that for us. So thank you very much.
Anybody else from the Ex-Caroni Workers want to say anything?
Yes, I got my land in Felicity section and they called me back and they gave me a location. So,
You have that visa document?
yes.
Also, you have been actually relocated from the residential lot that you were allocated before.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll show this to the end.
Anybody else?
What's the date on that letter?
Okay, the date on it. Check the date.
The one is 12,
12 and 12.
That's 2014?
Yes,
This one is 2004.
what year? What year?
And the 12 and the 12 months. December the 12th.
12, 12, 12.
So you were relocated in 2012.
Yes.
And the allocation is 2007.
What it means is allocations are being made and relocations are also being made.
This one's the 21st and the 3rd, 2013. Another one.
and nobody has shown us where our land is. We don't know where it is.
First, we had a location at Felicity. Now they give us a location at World Village. So we don't know which part, we just have a number.
A number and a paper, we don't know where the land is. They're showing us where our land is situated.
Neither agricultural land, neither our residential lots. We don't know where the location are.
The residential lot, the agricultural land is so far away from us, we can't even reach where we
I don't know where mine is. I don't have a number.
Sit down.
Right.
You on?
Okay.
Okay. My name is Chatagun, live at Esperanza. The Prime Minister said on the campaign trail in Felicity that the sweetener which the Caroni workers were supposed to get back sometime last year will be given back to all the sweetener participants. I am asking the Prime Minister now. I'm demanding from the Prime Minister now. I don't want no minister to come to talk to me. I want the Prime Minister to give me a date when the sweetener loan money going to be paid back to all the Caroni workers who was in the sweetener program. Furthermore, some of our ministers went on TV and radio during the course of last week and saying it is a work in progress. We have been working in progress.